The cabin on the lake. My stepsister, Fiona, and I had known each other for several years before my divorced mom and her single dad got married. Our parents were good friends before they married, so although we weren't technically a family, we did many family-type things together, especially summer vacations at Fiona's dad's cabin on the lake. Fiona is 3 years older than I am, so she was never exactly thrilled to hang around with a younger kid during those pre-marriage outings, and once our parents did get married, she avoided her little stepbrother as much as I avoided my older stepsister. This is not to say we didn't do things together, but we always sought out our own peer group when we could. I was just starting high school when Fiona left for college. She rarely came home for visits, so we haven't seen much of each other lately, but now she was coming for a long summer vacation. She'd just completed her 3rd year in college and I had just graduated high school and turned 18 years old. Mom, Dad, and I were already at the summer cabin when we heard Fiona pull her car into the pine needle matted driveway. We rushed out to greet her with Dad beating everyone to the car and opening the door. Fiona stepped out and hugged him tightly. "I'm glad to be home," she said. "I've missed everyone so much." "We're glad to see you too, honey," Dad said. Then she hugged Mom, who was almost in tears from joy. I stood back, waiting for the parental greetings to finish, and when Mom finally let go of her, Fiona took a step toward me, then suddenly stopped. "Wow," she exclaimed, "I was about to say hello little bro, but you're not so little anymore." She was right. When she had left for college I was barely the same height as she and very scrawny. Now, I towered over her 5'5" frame and have put on quite a bit of muscle. "You've really grown," she said while eyeing me with a suspiciously wry smile. "You've changed too," I said. Fiona was always a little heavy in high school, and being a rambunctious tomboy, never paid too much attention to her appearance. All that seems to have changed. She wore a halter top without a bra and I could see that her breasts were firm and her nipples protruded enough to be noticeable. Her arms were slim, shoulders softly rounded, and her waist was a perfect hourglass shape. She wore a pair of running shorts which showed she had a flat, taut abdomen and nicely shaped, well-muscled legs. Her hips were slim and as well-rounded. I thought, "Damn, my stepsister is hot," but out loud, I said, "You look good." We exchanged a cursory hug and all went inside. The afternoon and evening was spent reminiscing, catching up on new events, and eating dinner. I was eyeing Fiona the entire time, amazed at how good she looked. Every once in a while, she would catch me looking and grin back at me with the same devilish look she had given me earlier. The next morning was spent packing the car. "Your mom and I have to return to work for the week," Dad informed us. "We'll return on Saturday, so you two are alone here the entire week. Here are the rules." "Daddy," Fiona whined, "I'm 21. I don't need rules to act like an adult." "Since you're 21, you're in charge," Dad retorted. "Now I have a problem," I interjected. "I'm 18, I don't need my sister to look after me." "Stop it, both of you," Dad said sternly. "Here are your rules. No parties. I don't want a group of strange kids running around the place. Out here, in the middle of nowhere. Maybe we could round up a group of antelope, but we'd never be able to round up enough people for a party," I explained. Dad ignored me. "No swimming, boating, or hiking alone. You look after each other. Yes, Daddy, Fiona said appeasably. Yes, sir, I said. We finished loading the car and they drove off while Fiona and I waved. Fiona turned toward me as they drove out of sight. Matt, let's go swimming, she said excitedly. Now? I questioned. Yes, now, she demanded. Dad said we have to swim together, so go get your swimsuit on or I'll call him and tell him you won't abide by the rules. I shrugged my shoulders, realizing this week is starting out to be a harrowing experience for me. We went inside, changed into our swimsuits, and I followed Fiona out to the lake. She wore a tiny fluorescent orange bikini. She could be seen a mile away against the backdrop of browns and greens in the woods surrounding the lake. I watched her ass wiggle as we walked to the end of the floating deck. It appeared incredibly firm and there was a definite rocking action as she swayed. I was beginning to get aroused. Stopped myself mid-dive to turn and see what she was doing, but as I had already committed to the dive, I fell sideways into the water. Fiona jumped in right after me and finished removing my shorts before I even had a chance to recover from the plunge. What the hell are you doing, Fee? I shouted after getting my head back above the water. She twirled my swimsuit above her head and tossed it onto the deck. I wanted to see what you looked like without clothes, she answered. I splashed water at her and said, "You've seen me naked before." "Yes, but you've gotten bigger since then, a lot bigger." "Well, I hope you got a good eyeful," I said sarcastically. "I got a peek." "I'll get an eyeful when you get out of the water." "I'm not getting out of the water while you're here." "You heard what Dad said, no swimming alone." "If you're in the water, I'm here with you," she admonished. "So I'm naked while you're fully clothed. In this tiny swimsuit, you've already seen just about all of me." "Not the same," I complained. "All right, here," Fiona replied. I watched closely as she took off her bikini top. She raised her arms above her head to toss the bra onto the dock, and that made her tits stand out. They were gorgeous, absolutely perfect, with a smooth peaked shape and pencil eraser-sized nipples that stood proud and hard from the cool lake water. "Are you happy now?" she asked. "No," I lamented, "you still have your bottoms on. You don't get to see my cute ass. At least not yet, maybe later." "Then let me get a look at your tits." I swam over and put my hands on her waist to raise her out of the water and expose her breasts. As I lifted her up, she reached under the water and cupped my genitals in her hand. I was startled at how aggressive she was acting, so the expression on my face must have been hilarious because Fiona smiled widely and started giggling. I didn't get much of a look at her tits because I immediately pushed her away, so I was out of her reach. "What's the matter? Are you shy, little bro?" she said tauntingly. "What are you up to, Fee?" "The water's cold," she said as she began to swim back toward me. "I wanted to make sure you weren't getting a chill." "That's it, swim time is over. There's something wrong with you today." I spun her around and pushed her toward the ladder. She swam to it, soundly kicking me between the legs as she started out. I groaned from the sharp pain and then watched as she climbed out onto the deck, her smooth, wet skin glistening in the sunlight as the water ran off her body. She wrapped the towel under her arms and around her torso, covering her chest before turning around to watch me get out of the water. I struggled up the ladder, my balls hurting from the kick, and I was embarrassed that my sister was staring at my exposed genitals. I wrapped the towel around my waist and proceeded to the cabin. "I'm taking a shower," I called out as I went up the stairs. The lake water had been cold, so I ran a hot shower, got in, and began shampooing my hair. "Matt, do you need anything?" Fiona called to me from the hall. "No, Fee, I've got everything I need," I shouted while rinsing my hair. "Are you sure?" Fiona asked, her voice no longer coming from the hall, but coming from within the bathroom. I moved my head out from under the running water and opened my eyes. Through the water-streaked glass shower door, I saw Fiona, naked, in the middle of the room. She looked magnificent, her slender build beautifully curved, her smooth skin unblemished, and her pussy shaved bare. She shook her head, tossing her sandy blonde hair from side to side. "How about me?" she asked. "Fee, what's gotten into you?" "I'm horny," she replied as she walked over and opened the shower door. "I can see that," I concluded. "And I need a shower too." Dad said no going in the water alone. He said no swimming alone. "Minor detail," she said jokingly. "He meant we have to watch out for each other, so that's what I'm doing." "You wouldn't want him to find out we weren't looking out for each other." "So what have you been doing? Sleeping with half the student body?" "I've only slept with 2 people the whole time. I had a boyfriend for about 6 months and I slept with one of the professors a couple of times. My boyfriend was on the swim team and he was built like a granite mountain. The professor was older and had a small dick, but he had big ideas. I learned a lot from him." "Did you learn that it's okay to come on to your brother?" "If I want to, yes. Besides, I saw you leering at me yesterday." "I know what you were thinking." "Thinking it is one thing, Fee, doing it is another. Little bro, sit back, relax, and let it happen. I promise you'll enjoy yourself." She picked up the bar of soap and began to lather my genitals, slowly rubbing the bar over my cock, around my groin, and between my legs. I began to get an erection and she continued to soak me until I was fully erect. She handed me the soap and stroked my sudsy cock with one hand and massaged my groin with the other. "I have to start calling you Big Matt. You've got the biggest dick I've ever handled. This is going to be fun." I began to soap her, starting at her neck and shoulders and moving down her chest to her breasts. Her skin was exceptionally smooth and her soft rounded shoulders enticing. I rubbed the bar across her breast until it was well lathered, then passed it over to the other breast. With my free hand I massaged her previously lathered tit. It was amazingly firm and resilient to the touch. I moved my hand across her nipple. It was hard and erect, she murmured approvingly at the touch. I massaged the little protuberance between my fingers and she moaned softly. I switched hands to massage her other breast and moved the soap bar down her abdomen and across her stomach. I soaked the curve of her waist, hips and ass, sliding the bar gently across her supple skin. I took my hand from her breast and massaged her sudsy ass. It was firm, well-rounded, and delightful. Although I was apprehensive to do so, I moved the soap across her mons region, over her pussy, then between her legs. She moaned softly and kept stroking my cock. We were both well lathered at this point. I replaced the soap in the soap dish and used my hands to spread the suds over her entire body. Her skin was silky, slippery, and enticing. While continuing to stroke my dick, she cupped my scrotum in her hand and massaged my testicles. They still hurt a little from the earlier kick, but the massaging eased the pain. Then she closed her fingers around my scrotum and held my balls firmly in her hand. I stopped massaging her and readied myself, not knowing what she was going to do next. "See," she explained, "I can make you do anything I want. All I have to do is squeeze a little." She closed her hand around my balls and my leg muscles involuntarily tightened in response. "And you'll do whatever I want, and if you don't comply, I just squeeze harder until you do." She squeezed harder and my balls began to hurt. I instinctively pressed my legs together, but to no avail. She had a firm grip on my manhood and knew exactly what she was doing. "If you still don't do what I want, I'll squeeze them until you can't walk, then tell Dad I had to kick you in the nuts because you were trying to do something to me you shouldn't have been doing." She squeezed my balls with a vice-like grip, digging her fingers into my sack and wrapping them tightly around my testicles, causing me to double over and my knees to go weak. I placed my hands on her shoulders to keep from collapsing on the floor. My balls hurt so much they felt like they were on fire. "Okay, Fee, I get it. You'll ruin me if I don't do what you want. Please, let go of my nuts." She released her iron-fisted grip on my scrotum and gently supported my balls in her cupped hand. If she would have let them hang loose, I think I might have collapsed from the pain. "I'm sorry, bro, I didn't want to hurt you, but I had to make you understand who's in charge here," she said as she tenderly massaged my aching balls. "Is that any better?" "Yes, thank you," I replied. It was at that point I knew I was in her complete control. She had me. I would do whatever she wanted and she could do to me whatever she desired. Fiona's massaging eased the pain in my scrotum and soon I was able to stand on my own. We rinsed the soap suds from each other, then toweled each other dry. She led me into her bedroom. She had a queen-sized bed, and roughly pushed me onto it. "Tell me the truth, Matt. Haven't you always wanted to know what my pussy tastes like?" I could have lied, but what would have been the point? The truth was I had always wanted to know what her pussy tasted like. Even when we weren't getting along, I fantasized about her pussy. "Yes," I answered, "I've always wanted to taste your pussy, Fee." "Then if you ask me nicely, I may let you find out." "Fee," I asked, "will you let me lick your pussy?" "Yes," she said and hopped onto the bed. I caught a whiff of her extraordinary scent as she passed her leg over my nostrils to straddle my face. Her pussy was magnificent, shaved smooth with just a bit of pink inner labia protruding from the cleft. She lowered herself until her inner labia just grazed my lips. I flicked my tongue across them. They were soft, moist, and sweet. She spread her legs wider, her pussy lips parted, exposing the entirety of her inner labia dangling just above my lips. I inhaled her sweet musky aroma. It was intoxicating, and I ran my tongue between her pussy lips, from her perineum to her clit. She flinched from the sensation. I pursed my lips around one of her inner labia and gently sucked it into my mouth, massaging it between my lips. "Oh," Fiona moaned and wiggled her hips. I pushed my tongue into her vaginal opening and pussy juice ran out. It was slick and sweet with a slight hint of cinnamon. I circled my tongue around, then thrust it in further. Fiona moaned, spread her knees, and pressed her pussy onto my mouth. I rubbed my tongue on the upper wall of her vagina and contacted her G-spot. She gasped and I felt every muscle in her legs contract. I continued to work my tongue on the spot. "Oh, fuck, that's good," she said. "You're making my pussy melt." Her Kegel muscles began to spasmodically contract around my tongue. Pussy juice flowed into my mouth and ran down my chin. I pressed my tongue against her G-spot as hard as I could. "Oh God, you're making me come. I want that huge cock of yours inside me, bro." She lifted herself off my face, moved down, and straddled my waist. I positioned my cock at her vaginal entrance and she lowered herself onto my stiff shaft. Her wet, slippery pussy lips parted as the head of my cock slipped inside. She gasped, "Oh my God, you're huge." Then she leaned forward, pinning my arms to the mattress and kissed me passionately, thrusting her tongue deep inside my mouth. I sucked on it as she slowly lowered herself onto my dick, the walls of her vagina expanding as my cock slid ever deeper inside. She moaned at the intrusion and continued to press herself onto me until the end of my cock contacted her cervix. Pussy juice squished out around my dick as my shaft filled the entirety of her pussy. She groaned loudly and began to buck up and down on me, slowly at first, then increasing speed and intensity until she was crashing down on me. I thrust up as she bucked down on me, slamming our pubic regions together in unison. "Oh, fuck me, Matt, fuck me," she cried out. I began to feel the urge to come. It began deep in my prostate and radiated throughout my groin. We continued crashing onto each other until the urge overwhelmed me. I thrust up inside her and ejaculated with an intensity one had never felt before. I could feel the semen splatter inside her vagina and I suspected she felt it too because she screamed as I came. She crashed down onto my cock again and I came with nearly the same ferocity as the first time, my cum again spraying inside her and she screaming at the sensation. We continued banging each other, her rolling her hips and slamming her vulva onto me and me thrusting up, plunging into her as deeply as I could. A mixture of my semen and her pussy juice leaked out and collected at the base of my cock. We continued until exhaustion. I ran out of cum and she out of energy. She laid her head on my chest and collapsed on top of me. "That was the best sex I've ever had, Matt," she said between gasps for air. "Aren't you glad I talked you into it?" "Sure," I replied weakly. "You talked me into it. This is going to be the best summer vacation ever," she gleefully stated, and then closed her eyes and fell asleep. I soon followed.